Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merle Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time.
Hi, welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families. And honey, tonight's show is a difficult one.
Well, I don't like doing these difficult shows. I want to goof around and have fun. You know, why is it always got to be so hard,
Well,
Linda?
you know what, hon, we have done some metrics, some analytics on our blogs and our podcasts, and the topic of divorce, co-parenting, blended families has been one of the most highly sought after topics, and so we feel like today's show is an important one.
Yeah, I joking about not wanting to do this topic, it's actually the reason, in large part, why Rock Solid Families came to be, because we saw the need of broken homes. And, you know, a broken home is just a really generic statement. But if you look at the wreckage within the home, and as we talk all the time, the generational wreckage, that's the thing that hurts, and that's why Rock Solid Families came to be. And so whether I like it or not, this is a topic that we really need to talk about.
So we're talking about divorce today and the effects it has on our kids. And really the purpose of this show is fourfold. So I want you really to be listening. If you're going to tune us out, turn us off because it's too painful, please, 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 you are the folks that we want to reach. So if you're a parent listening and you have gone through a divorce, we want to equip you as a mom and dad to help your children through this difficult season. You just can't put your head in the sand, hon, and pretend like it's not happening.
Right. No, it's because the effects are very real. So we can't just turn and also become desensitized to it.
Right.
You know, that's what we see so often now. It's just like, oh, well, yeah, they divorced. No big deal.
Yeah. And this is going to be a tough show to listen to because we're going to be talking about what's going on inside the hearts and the minds of your kids. And some of what we're going to share is going to be hard to hear, but please understand our heart. We are not here to condemn you, but hopefully to open your eyes to the possible issues your family may face down the road, or maybe you're dealing with now, and how to get help for them. So there's a lot of resources out there. I pray that you will, after listening to this show, seek some Christian counseling for you and your family, maybe create a network, hon, of healthy families around you. Call us at Rock Solid Families. We would love to walk alongside you. We are walking alongside hundreds of families that are going through this.
Yeah, and you know, I think the biggest thing to start with, too, is just that whole idea of humbling yourself to get that help, and not being hiding in the embarrassment or the fear or whatever it is that holds us back. Humbling yourself and saying, you know what, I don't know if I always had it all right.
Right.
You know, and that pride issue keeps us oftentimes, you know, we see, all the time, hon, we see people going 10, 15, 20 years into these marriages that are just absolutely on the rocks.
Yeah.
And there's such a pride of saying, you know, we can do this. We can do this. And finally it does end up spread out all over the rocks.
Or pretending that it did not affect the kids. You know, we have got a lot of couples who have made choices and divorced and separated, and they think that, oh, it's the best thing for the kids. The kids are suffering, and we need to make sure that we help and support them any way we can.
With that being said, though, I do want to say there are absolute abuse, physical abuse situations, verbal abuse situations where we do talk about protecting the people involved. And so
removing yourself from the situation.
Yeah, if you happen to be in one of those situations, we are by no means telling you, no matter what, stay in it. No, that's not the case at all. So we want to drop a little bit of common sense into this, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe.
Right. And our second group we're really speaking to are those that maybe are in a struggling marriage. You have not divorced or separated, but you're contemplating it. You're thinking that's the better answer. And we just want to kind of open up your eyes and help you understand some of the struggles that your kids will face if you and your spouse choose the route of divorce. We want you to think long and hard about the repercussions of your decisions on the health and the well-being of your kids just before you pull the trigger. There's another group that I hope are listening, and that is those maybe, hun, who experienced divorce as a child.
Yeah.
And are dealing with maybe some of the issues as an adult, and they don't understand why. Why am I struggling still with anxiety? Why do I have these anger issues? Why? And can we just tell you, there is hope and help out there. You don't have to be a victim here. You don't have to be the product of your environment. You can break the cycle of dysfunction and have healthy relationships.
Right. I mean, this is such a vital part of not just being angry or upset and harvesting that for years after your own parents were divorced.
Right.
But the idea of saying, what do I need to learn from this?
Sure.
What did the adults in my life do that I don't want to repeat?
Yes.
And, and my life in particular, my parents divorced after 35 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Two very loving, good people, but allowed a lot of things to kind of get in the way. And the next thing you know, they're divorced after 35 plus years.
Yeah.
So for me and my siblings, we were upset about that, obviously, at first, but then had to say, well, what don't I want to repeat here?
Right. And we see families all the time in our office who are choosing a different path and experiencing great joy and peace. So this is not a death sentence. This is not a condemnation on what you have to live with. There is something better out there. But hun, the last listener I hope that is listening and I hope to reach is you. Whoever you are listening to this podcast right now, there's a reason why the Lord has you tuning in. No doubt you have family and friends, hon. We can't go anywhere in our lives that have people in our lives who have been affected by divorce, whether it be coworkers, whether it be friends, whether it be our spouse. Maybe God is calling you to reach out to them. Share this podcast with them. Help them get that support that they need.
Yeah. So, okay. So now we know who all of our listeners are.
I'm hoping.
There, okay?
I'm hoping.
We got to pay some bills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hang in there with us. We want to run a couple commercials. We want to very much say thank you to Maxwell Construction as they have continued to come along and be a sponsor for Rock Solid Radio. Maxwell Construction was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell and has grown to expand to become among the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state area. Maxwell separates itself from their competition on being a service-oriented business, construction business. So they can help you meet your individual needs, whether you're trying to build a restaurant or a hospital or an apartment or retail center. So if you need any type of construction done, call Maxwell Construction today at 812-537-2200.
Yeah, hon, and I just am so appreciative of Maxwell's and the construction company. We also want to thank our other sponsor, Mansfield Insurance Agency. How well is your insurance agency serving you? At Mansfield Insurance Agency, they have built a reputation and business building on caring, listening, and protecting their customers. Jim Mansfield began this business in 1981 and has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So if you have insurance needs, call Mansfield Insurance Agency at 1-800-230-3927. That's 1-800-230-3927.
All right. We got a couple of announcements coming up. You and I both had an opportunity to preview our recording with Strong Dads with AJ Waltz.
Which published last week.
And so now you all got the opportunity to hear that. If you didn't hear that, you need to go on to your Spotify or Apple Podcast, and you need to listen to that. What an incredible story.
Yeah.
What a great example of not just a strong dad, but a strong family. Britt and him and AJ have come together to do what we are called to do. And so
it was a powerful show.
Charlie's story is still being written. And so we just want to thank AJ and Britt for sharing that story with us.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, you've got to go tune in. You can go to our website, rocksolidfamilies.org/podcasts and pick up on the interview you did with AJ Waltz and just the story about, being kind of thrown into the fire as a strong dad.
Yeah, hello, fatherhood.
It was a great, and I have to admit, I cried more than once in that show.
Also, we got we're in the month of October, so we are
happy anniversary.
That's right, 1 year for Rock Solid Radio and Rock Solid Families, and so we are in our Rock Solid Families and the fitness side of things. We have been running specials this month, so if you want to get your old body back in shape and get with it,
you don't have to have an old body.
Well, get that body back in shape, right? So we are doing a special $10 off the 10 class pass.
Yeah.
Normally that's $70, and so for $60, you can get yourself 10 classes. So that's a pretty great deal.
And first workouts are always free.
Yes, and this is Bring a Friend month. So if you bring a friend, you will get to work out free because you brought that friend.
Yeah.
So that is at 7484 Christina Drive out in St. Leon, Indiana. So that's where our office is located. Come on out and join us. We better tell our workout schedule, right? So we go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. and Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. and we do a Saturday at 9 a.m. So come on out and join us. This is a great month to start as we are offering a deal, and you're just starting to gain a little bit of that winter weight. I know, it's getting cold.
Summer's gone. And, hon, it's really cool. We are in St. Leon, Indiana, the big town of, but it is really cool to see the demographics of where our clients are coming from, and they're coming from all over the tri-state. And,
we have people drive every day from Cincinnati. That's
or
awesome.
Northern Kentucky, or, in Southeast Indiana. So it's definitely a need that we're trying to meet with families. So, hon, why this topic? Why this topic of divorce and the effects on kids?
Well, kind of as we started off at the beginning part of the show, divorce has become so commonplace. It seems to be in everybody's life at some level, whether it's in your immediate home or whether it's just right next door. So it's everywhere. I want to make a point here. Sometimes you and I have to kind of follow these stats a little bit so we have a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. And in the last couple of years, you've heard this stat drop like, well, hey, the divorce rate is dropping. So we used to always kind of say 50% or so of couples end in divorce. And you started to see that drop into the 47 and 45.
People thought, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And guys, here's the reality of it is that number has dropped. But the breakup rate, the breakup rate is higher than ever. And when I use the term breakup rate, the only reason why the divorce rate is dropping is because now we have more people just cohabitating.
Right, living
together. And they actually break up at a rate much, much higher than a divorce rate.
But they don't count.
And they don't count in the divorce statistics. So I would love to say that we're moving in the right direction. The reality of it is it's even worse. And it's worse because I saw this in the school. We would see people cohabitating and having children involved.
Yeah.
And the door out or the step out the door is even easier.
Sure.
Because we don't have all the legalities of the divorce. And so the couple break up, and guess who pays the price?
Yeah, hon, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the statistics of cohabitating couples is actually higher for abuse and poverty for our kids. So the dangers for our kids are even greater. And so that's why we are just really cautious in talking to couples when they're like, oh, we're just going to live together. That's where we're going to solve the divorce problem.
Yeah.
By the way, the first time divorce rate is lowering into the 40s, but that's because the second and third marriage divorce rates are not included in that number. And those rates are higher. So if you have been married for the second time, that divorce rate is in the 60%. And if you've been married 3 times or more, that's in the 70 to 80%. So we really are skewing the numbers by just saying first time marriage divorce rate.
Right.
And so, yes, that number is lowering.
Yeah. And here's the bottom line. This show and Rock Solid Families is about trying to prevent divorce.
Sure.
And it's not because we just feel like that's a good thing to do. It's just because we see the wreckage. We see the wreckage. And so we're really not working to clean up a stat. We're working to clean up families and the effects of the hurt and the pain on the kids. And what we do know is that kids that come from divorce oftentimes are more likely to divorce. And so that perpetuates an even greater damage down the road.
Right. And you and I, hon, worked in the schools and the churches. We worked with children for 30 years, and we saw the devastation that occurred in them emotionally, socially, economically, relationally, spiritually, because of what mom and dad's choices were. So we just want to, again, we're not here to beat you up. We're not here to categorize your child and say this is what they are destined to.
Right.
We're just telling you that these are issues that are going to come up for your children. And so we want parents and grandparents and families and teachers and friends to be all aware of this for the lives of our kids. And so it's important that we have our eyes wide open.
Yeah. So, there are some different things that we actually see happening.
Yeah.
And we're talking about our kids today.
Yes.
About
the effects on the children.
What happens with the children. And one of the very first things that we start to see in the divorce situation is the security issue.
Sure.
And you can even take a pretty hard-nosed kid who acts like they're pretty resilient and tough, and you start to see things that really indicate that the kid is insecure, and he is trying to cover that by overly bolstering some other component of his personality.
Yeah.
And this is in large part why we see the whole bullying thing. We see a kid who is scared at some level, whether he's home by himself all the time or whether he's at a yelling house or whatever. And so at first, the kid has the thought of, I just want to sit in my room and cry, what's going on here? And eventually, the human nature takes over and says, this isn't working for me. And so I have to stronghold myself through it. I have to pull myself through it. And we start to artificially inflate ourselves with, you know what, I'm just going to act a little tougher, talk a little nastier. Those kind of things.
Compensate for the insecurity they're feeling. There is no other relationship that gives kids that same feeling as mom and dad living together all the time.
Yeah.
There isn't. I'm sorry. Just the reality is that you can remarry, you can get a boyfriend, you can give them all the things in the world, but nothing is going to replace what that does to a child, that feeling of safety and security. Hun, the research is crazy. The emotional scars of that shattered sense of security doesn't go away quickly. I mean, research shows that adults still experience that emotional trauma sometimes 25, 30 years after the divorce.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy because think of all the decisions that were altered
affected
by that sort of anxiety that was in there.
Yeah, so that's number one, really, is that safe and secure world of a child with mom and dad being together, raising them together.
Yeah, another thing that we saw very frequently in the school setting, all of our kids, occasionally have a little sickness.
Yeah, a little sniffle, a little bad belly.
Yeah, back in the day, we played hooky, right? And you played hooky because you had a test coming up or something, or you just didn't want to go to school that day, and you played hooky. And so what we see now is, on a regular basis, these kids are coming up with very real symptoms, by the way. So we're not to try to say, look at the kids and say, oh, you're just faking it.
Right.
Like I did when I was little. But the idea that they actually do have stomach aches, they do have headaches, they are nauseous, they do have diarrhea, they have all these things because these are symptoms of anxiety based off of the insecurity and the fear that these kids have. And so, I've heard people talk about, when I was in school, we didn't even have a school nurse, or the school nurse only came in once a month to test our hearing.
Yeah.
Listen, I know firsthand. We have a full-time nurse in our schools, and we could usually use a whole daggone ER.
You've been in the nurse's office before. I have too. It's crazy.
Our school nurses do not get paid enough to do what they do.
Shout out to all the school nurses out there.
Yeah, and if you've ever been in that setting, do not belittle what the school nurse does, because the number of kiddos that are coming into her, a lot of this based off of these anxieties and insecurity type symptoms. It's just overwhelming.
Right. The psychological distress that our children of divorce are going through does manifest itself into physical symptoms, hun. And as later in teen years, honey, I think that's where we're seeing the cutting, the purging, the suicide attempts, the gender identity crisis that we're having. I believe, hear me now, I believe that so much of that is because they are psychologically trying to adjust to what's going on at home. I can't tell you how many times you and I have worked with our teens or young kids who are dealing with some real physical symptoms of a psychological issue they're having at home.
Yeah, they're searching, they're looking, they're trying to deal with this. And
they're crying out.
Yeah, opening any door they can to see if they can find a solution or a comfort.
So I just want to speak to the parents right now who are out there going, oh my gosh, that's my child. Please, please do not ignore those symptoms. Get them some help. Get them some counseling, some faith-based counseling that they can work out those issues, those fears, those anxieties in a positive way so that they don't keep working on that as they get older.
Right. And also if you are hearing this show and you're going, our house can sometimes be a little bit crazy with some of the stuff that's going on. We want your child to get help, but we want your house to get help.
Yes.
You and I talk about this all the time, that the backdrop theme in our house is we want a house of peace.
Yes.
Now we know that doesn't always happen, but that is definitely what we strive for,
right?
Because we know that when our house is calm, our kids have an opportunity to recharge.
Right. It's a safe place.
Feel secure.
Yeah.
And so we want you to look in your own house and say, are my kids coming home to a place that is secure? Do they just find themselves resting there?
Yes, is it a safe place?
Right. If you will see, especially with middle schoolers and teenagers, they will oftentimes go kind of hide or lock themselves back in their room.
Or go to the friend's house all the time.
Yeah, and that is our indication that we're just trying to find a safe, quiet, peaceful place. And so, again, teenagers do this all the time, but if that's very common in your house, it might be screaming a large message out to you that, this place is just kind of crazy. Yeah. And even the kids are trying to hide.
For some of the listeners know that we adopted 3 children from the foster care system who had been in a pretty chaotic world and home for a long, long time. And we definitely have tried to speak this, preach this, model this, because we know that is physically going to help them and psychologically helping them by giving them a safe and secure place where they can thrive. That they don't feel like it's a war zone. If your home is a war zone, something needs to change, and it needs to start with mom and dad.
Right. And again, this is very, very empowering. So it means that I don't have to wait for somebody else to change. I don't have to, the school doesn't have to do a better job. The church doesn't have to do a better job, even though all of them should always be doing a better job, right? But I have to do a better job, and that's where my control actually lies with what I do.
Right.
And so this is actually very empowering in terms of the problem solving. But it takes that very first step of being humble and knocking your pride right off of your shoulder and saying, okay, what do I need to do?
Now, I have a feeling there's some listeners out here that are going to say, well, my husband and I or my wife and I are in a war zone, and that's why we need a divorce to settle the problem. And so we're just saying that doesn't make the problem go away.
No,
it actually exasperates. Yes. And so please get your family help for you as a couple and as a family. Don't just say, okay, well, we're just going to run from the problem and that's going to make our kids better. That's not the answer.
We see just other things with kiddos. We see academics suffer with kids, and who can blame a kid who's going home to a war zone every day and then telling them that they should study spelling words? So academics seem to suffer. Behavior problems, we see this all the time. Just like the kid is just not comfortable in their own skin, and they act out, and the next thing you know, the school actually starts to see that.
And we've worked with social services quite a bit with our 3 kiddos, and I remember one of the statistics that one of the caseworkers said that when a child is moved out of their school or into another town, that every move puts a child back 6 months academically. And so I did the math. Our kids had been in 5 schools in 5 years. And so, divorced parents often have different rules about academic expectations. They have less attention to grades or homework. Just the moving and the unsettledness of that is all just makes them suffer academically and socially.
Yeah. There's just other things that come into play. I mean, some of this is just almost common sense, and the idea that finances become a greater challenge. The likelihood of poverty is huge, 5 times more likely to see poverty in the home when we've got a divorce situation. And again, it's just common sense, because now all of a sudden we're having to make 2 house payments or 2 utility payments, all these different things. So that's just another huge stress that comes in on the family.
And hun, we work with a lot of single moms who are not getting any child support, who are trying to work and take care of the kids and the home full time because dad has kind of abandoned them. And so we see that where the kids are just really suffering. And again, we're not talking about the new pair of shoes or the fancy house. We're just talking about being able to feed them.
Right. Well, and just to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, a lot of times we see kids that are in divorce situations that the finances are very difficult, but we see the parents covering it by overbuying.
Compensating.
Yes. And so this is a kid, they're in a divorce setting, getting ready to lose the house, and they're walking around with $150 pair of Nikes.
Yeah.
And you're going, whoa, this was a guilt purchase on a parent's part.
I remember as the director of the Life Center at Whitewater Crossing, I had a mom who needed rental assistance. She was about ready to be thrown out on the street, and she was a single mom, but her kids were in special soccer camps and different leagues and stuff. And so literally she said her rent money was going to their soccer fees. And I looked at her, I was like, you're about ready to be homeless.
Yeah.
But you feel this need to provide this special soccer thing for them.
Which, it speaks to her care for her kids.
Yeah,
she feels such a need,
a guilt
to cover her kids and what they're going through. But it's just so misplaced, and there's a better, more long-lasting fix to this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We see a higher risk kind of teens with alcohol, drug, and sexual promiscuity. Often because of less supervision. Parents are back in the dating scene, less willing to be a parent. We see divorced parents. You see this, and I see this all the time. Try to win the love of their teen by allowing them more freedom. Maybe let their boyfriend or girlfriend spend the night, or hey, maybe we're going to go drinking or do some drugs together. I mean, we've seen that, and I'm like, what in the world are these parents thinking?
Yeah, they also, because the craziness that's in the parent brain, because they're not happy in their relationship, and the next thing you know, they themselves are not always emotionally stable, so there's just an increase in this whole verbal abuse, physical abuse, so there's just a lot more energy going on in that way, and so kids are seeing this, the whole domestic violence and battery that's going on.
And we kind of want to be our kids' friends, because then we're cool, and makes mom or dad, the other ex-spouse, mad. So let's just kind of take the knife and twist it in the back of our ex.
Well, it's now me against you instead of fighting for the family.
We also see, a greater instances of domestic violence, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, sometimes at the hands of a new boyfriend, a girlfriend, a step-parent, a step-sibling. It's just a messy, messy place where you really have to be vigilant about protecting your kids.
Yeah. The idea also that when we see marriages going bad, people start to just grab something that they think is going to hold them together. Yeah. And oftentimes they grab another person.
Yes.
And so they jump into relationships quickly.
A rebound.
It's a rebound type thing. We see this all the time. And again, the relationship might have been based off of a physical attraction, somebody who was able to speak the emotional language that person needed to hear at that time. Maybe it was just sex-based. And the next thing you know, within 3 months or less, they're living together.
Yeah.
And now we have seen the wreckage is just getting ready to go tenfold.
Yeah. And we've experienced working with kids who've seen their parents be sexually active right in front of them. Yeah. And then we see kids growing up and they're into the cohabitating because they believe that, divorce was ugly. So they don't want to go down that road. And so they make poor choices in relationships based on what they saw modeled growing up.
Yeah. Living together versus marriage is just kind of like our culture's answer to the prenup. It's like, hey, no strings attached. No strings attached. I can get out of this free. The problem is kids aren't free, and their emotions aren't free, and their health is not free.
Yeah, and this is a statistic I found that was really disturbing. The most dangerous family structure for a child is a cohabitating family in which one of the partners is not a biological parent. The same survey stated that children raised with one biological parent and one non-biological cohabitating partner are 10 times more likely to suffer from physical abuse and almost 20 times more likely to experience sexual abuse compared to children being raised by a married biological parents. That was disturbing to me. And 50% more likely to be in poverty with cohabitating parents.
So I know somebody out there right now is listening, and maybe they're falling into this demographic that we're speaking of, and you're saying, well, it's working for us. And you know what? And I applaud you. I absolutely applaud you. And what we want to do is encourage you to take it to another level. And it can work. It's just that the probability of it working is much, much less. And so that's why, there are exceptions to every rule. There are divorce situations, cohabitating situations, all these things that turn out to be okay. But the bottom line is that for a society to function, we know statistically it's a train wreck.
Yeah, and we want parents to have their eyes wide open and not be blinded by hurt or by loneliness, by despair, by anger. We really need to be careful because, our kids are feeling these feelings of abandonment. They feel these feelings of being replaced. Kids don't understand why mom and dad met someone new and why all of a sudden there's some new kids in the picture. It's just very disturbing for kids, and it definitely leaves scars, and it's traumatic for a lot of kids.
Yeah, so let's move through. We've really kind of beat up the whole idea of the stuff that we see. Let's move through the idea of what we can do to help. And this is the empowering part. So please hang in there with us. Every person here, whether you're divorced or not, can benefit from some of the things we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, we're not talking about beating up on you as a parent. We just want to reiterate and help you understand, that there is grief. There's grief that kids carry into adulthood, and maybe you're the adult that has experienced that grief. There is not a quick fix to this problem. It's important that we understand the emotional toll it's taken on our kids. It's a loss that knocks them off their feet, and they feel insecure and unsafe. So it's important that we explore every option, hun, before we end a marriage. If you've already experienced a divorce in your family, please do not underestimate the trauma your children have gone through and continue to go through.
All right. But if somebody does go through the divorce, a lot of times what I saw in the school setting, the divorce was getting ugly. Maybe we weren't agreeing on everything, and we allowed the courts to go ahead and let their guidelines be our guidelines. And those are a baseline, is all they are. It's just
a minimum.
Yeah, it's a minimum, okay? And so when you go down that road, it's not the worst thing in the world, but there are certainly even better ways. Here are some things that we know really benefit our kids if you are in this situation.
And we're talking about 30 years of experience seeing it work. And so please listen carefully. These are things that we just encourage you to give a try.
Yeah. And the first thing is you got to move your kids as little as possible.
Yeah.
And this is hard because sometimes you might find yourself stuck in a neighborhood or around a person you don't want to be around anymore.
You're moving to another state.
Right. You're going to a different state, different town, whatever. And that's at the expense of the kids. There is a level of resiliency that kids have, but even one move can be devastating, especially depending on the personality of the kid and the age of the kid. Right. And so limit the moves. Yeah. You will find that kids that move a lot become somewhat hardened. Our own kiddos just don't even have memories of schools that they were in for 3 months or 4 months. And they'll be like, I don't know. I don't even know what happened there. I don't know anybody's name there.
Right. Yeah. Because they
had to do that to protect themselves.
Right. They had been in 5 schools in 5 years and 5 different foster homes. So new schools, new homes, new friends. It's all more trauma they have to experience.
Here's a tough one. Okay. This is a call out for both parents. You divorced. And now you're trying to figure out how to raise these kids. It is worth your time, money, and effort to get mediation if necessary, to learn how to work with your ex-spouse for the idea of the kids. I did not say to try to love them, even though that's what we're called to do. I did not say anything.
Love your kids?
No,
love
your ex.
Okay.
What I am saying is that we have got to have a working relationship for the sake of parenting.
Yeah.
And so if you need help to do that, that's stuff that we do as well. I sit with couples that are on the opposite side of the table now.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, how would we help the kids through this?
Yeah.
And that's a tough one because we have to die to ourselves.
Right.
You know, people come in with hate in their heart towards this other person.
Yeah.
And we need to work through that.
Yeah, but if you can work together to provide the most stable and consistent rules and boundaries, putting hurt aside, you know, when we just lash out and it's a war zone, even in the divorce situation, we got to keep our lines of communication open so that our kids don't manipulate. I mean, they love it. They'll try to work one against the other. If you're a teacher or minister listening, try to help facilitate that with a mom and a dad in a divorce situation to help them find that common ground.
Yeah, you know, we also want to say, and this is a tough one too, especially when you've broken up from your spouse and you get lonely.
Yeah.
You feel exhausted because you're carrying the load of maybe raising these kids and all of what goes with that. And the next thing you know, we want to bring another person into the picture.
Yeah.
And so we really want to encourage you to protect your kids from that other person until you absolutely know that this is the person that you want in their lives.
Right. The rule of thumb, hon, is 3 years. If you are not getting some kind of support from your Divorce Care is a national organization that a lot of churches help to facilitate. I encourage you to type in Google Divorce Care. I think it's .org, I think. But in there is a great support system, great support group. But the rule of thumb is 3 years. It's never going to be easy, but your children need time to adjust to the new normal. Do not throw them back into something stressful if you can avoid it. And as an adult, you need time to work through your own junk in your own trunk. Don't pack up your baggage and take it down the street to someone else.
Well, this is in our normal coaching that when we talk to our parents, we always say, God first, marriage second, kids third, in terms of our importance of how we love them and honor and value them.
Priorities.
And when we have the divorce situation, it kind of disrupts that. And so we still say God first, but while we're in that divorce situation, your kids have to take priority over any other person that you bring in.
Right.
And that is difficult, especially if you jump right in and you jump into a marriage, because you want to show your new spouse
that they're
a priority. But we still haven't bought into the idea whether this new spouse is the right person for your kids.
Right. And the kids aren't sure either.
They didn't choose all of this.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, when we're in these divorce situations, we have to make our kids a priority to protect them, and we're not going to do anything that we're not going to bring anybody in that's going to cause damage to them.
And what happens, hon, is that we elevate our kids too high into the entitlement phase, which is what we're seeing now, and kids are being spoiled and taken care of beyond what is a really healthy balance. And so because we're compensating, for that guilt and for that feelings of like I did wrong to them. So that's a hard one. You know, through all of this, whether you are separated, whether you're divorced, whether you're struggling in your marriage, you got to, as a mom and dad, continue to reassure your children that you love them, that love is not contingent on how you feel about your spouse, and that you're not going anywhere. Please tell them again and again, it is not their fault that there is a war zone in your home with you as a spouse. If you are a friend or a family member, please do everything in your power to help a child feel loved and secured. Hun, I know for our kiddos, it was coaches, it was caseworkers, it was teachers. It does continue to be. That they spoke love and support into our kids' lives. And that was really what kept them going until they found a stable home to live in.
Yeah. So the idea that, and this is again where the church and faith come in, when we have kids that are in these difficult situations, they feel abandoned, they feel lost. And if we have our kids involved in a church setting, there's so much between the people that that they can encounter there, and the Word of God that they can be reassured. In Psalms 27:10 it says, "Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close." Just think about that. And so your kids can find some security through this tumultuous time.
Yeah. Hun, I feel like in our kiddos that we adopted, we are not rich by any means. Material wise, but we are, but we're not giving them the mansion in the sky, but we are giving them a faith foundation that is going to take with them. And I believe that's the greatest gift we could give our kiddos.
Yeah. They're not getting the $150 Nikes, and we're reminded of that on a regular basis.
Or the new iPhone 11, which I just realized there was.
Yeah. But something that is going to be withstanding a lot longer in time. And so a faith and understanding why we rely on our faith and what the faith does in terms of giving hope and helping us work through challenges. So that is probably the biggest thing. And that's what we see lacking in so many homes where the divorce is prevalent, that people don't have hope, and their only hope is in their own human function. And your human function's broken, right? It is.
We were talking in a class, I was teaching a boundaries class just the other night, and one of the people in the class asked, why is all this happening? Why are we dealing with hopelessness and boundarylessness and faithlessness? And I kind of said, it's because we've fallen off the rails, that God is not the center of our home, that faith is not the foundation of how we're parenting and how we're raising our family. And so we got to get wise biblical counsel before it gets to the point of divorce. Many adults feel like they're doing their kids a favor by leaving their spouse. And please seek alternative solutions. Again, you said in the top of the show, if there's physical abuse, yes, we want you to get your kids out and get them somewhere safe. But please get some help. Don't throw that D word, that divorce around, and threaten every time you get in an argument. It just unsettles our kids' spirits too. Ask your spouse maybe to get some help with you. There is hope out there. There is help available. Call us at Rock Solid Families. Get connected to a church. Talk to your priest or pastor if you're already connected. Connect with a counselor near you if you don't live in our area. There is help.
So the whole idea of our job is to help prevent the divorce. If the divorce is imminent or has already happened, then we want to work through it the best that we can. That's part of what we do. But again, we're trying to prevent the divorce. And, in Mark 10:7-9, it says, "For this reason, a man will leave his wife and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate."
I think the man leaves his father and mother, not wife and mother.
Oh, did I say that? Wow, don't listen to me on
he
that
leaves
one.
his father and mother and is united to his wife as one flesh.
This is something that I point out frequently when I'm working with couples. These are just words. And until you internalize them and understand what they mean, when two become one, that means that if I hurt you, Linda, as your husband, if I do something that hurts you, it should hurt me.
Right. We're one flesh.
Right. We are one flesh. It should hurt me. When I see that you are hurting, I should feel that. And when I don't feel that, it speaks to my selfishness, my detachment from you. And so remember, folks, when you are in this marriage, to understand what that means. When either one of us hurt, the other should hurt. Yeah. The result of that, if you put this another step down the road, two became one. Two produced one child. And so if mom hurts, so do the kids. If dad hurts, so do the kids, because the kids are the actual one that came about from us too.
Yeah. And hon, we see so many families, the kids have not seen it modeled. Adults have not seen it modeled. And like we said before, you don't have to be a victim, a product of your environment. There is hope out there. You can break the cycle of dysfunction. You can have healthy relationships. You can recover and heal a broken marriage, a broken family. So please don't just settle for what it looks like today. Get some help, and there is hope out there.
Yeah. So again, we need to wrap things up. This was a serious show. we got to get something a little bit lighter. Okay, this is a serious
tough topic,
show,
but it's an important one.
It's a good topic. This is one that affects our homes and our culture more than probably anything else out there on a daily basis. So we need to say thank you to our sponsors. We want to again thank Maxwell Construction for all their support. Whether you have a school, hospital, restaurant, apartment, or retail center, call Maxwell Construction to get your needs met there. Maxwell Construction is at 812-537-2200.
Yeah, and again, we just want to thank Jim Mansfield at Mansfield Insurance Agency. Jim is an amazing community businessman who cares about his community and about strong and healthy families. So he has built a reputation and business on caring, listening, and protecting his customers. So if you have insurance needs, call Mansfield Insurance Agency at 1-800-230-3927. So, hun, that's a wrap for us. Go out and make it a great day. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merle and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.